A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition, and today is 25th of December 2023. Now, briefly, the important topics that we're covering I've already shared on the Telegram, by the way, but just revisiting. So, first is today is 25th of December. So, the logical thing is that today is the Good Governance Day to in remembrance of Madan Mohan Malviya and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. The first thing that you need to do is particularly have a short note on the contributions of Madan Mohan Malviya. You can also look at it from point of view, prelims. That was one theme. Second is when we talk about good governance, we expect questions can be asked in GS2 paper, mains paper. That is having the governance part also, constitution governance. Okay. So here, what is the meaning of governance? What is the meaning of good governance? What are the initiatives taken for good governance? Does e-governance translate into good governance? Because normally the government focuses on e-governance. Good governance initiatives means e-governance. But does e-governance result in good governance? Or is it the panacea to good governance? Pros and cons. Those are the things that we need to look at it. Then in ethics paper, GS4, a question was asked as to what is the difference between governance, good governance, and ethical governance. I've given some points in the handwritten note on the Telegram so that you may refer. Okay, so one is the good governance thing. Then you can see there is this issue with regards to Kashmir. Right? Custodial deaths took place. So now a logical question is, issue theme number 1, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, should it be revoked? Should it be under some check, right? Regulation. So that is a theme that comes up. It's okay. So that is one issue. I have actually a video, not on this channel, but I'll share it on the Telegram separately. Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Then, with regards to the overall political situation of Kashmir, right? We hear about things getting normalized, but we hear about violence now. We hear about the ambush that took place. 2 military vehicles were going on Thursday and they were ambushed. So things still are, there is a problem. And moment I think the pressure goes off, the military security pressure, again this thing will start off. So how do we have sustained peace or normalization in Kashmir? Briefly, it is restoration of political processes, working on the framework of building trust by maybe healing touch by the means of working on the framework of Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat, and Kashmiriyat. Right? So that is one theme that you can look at. Then there is an interview by the DMRC, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. So obviously Delhi Metro is leading in the metro framework and his views are sought. And that's it, we end over there. His views are sought. So for exam point of view, in the recent times, we are working on transit-oriented development model. In fact, in Saudi Arabia, there is a proposed city based on the very theme. A linear city known as the Neom city is coming up based on the same model, transit-oriented development. If you want to read more about it, there is a National Urban Transport Policy Framework 2014. National Urban Transport Policy. And there's a very interesting line which may be picked up. That is, the focus should be on moving people, not moving vehicles. Moving people means public transport, not vehicles. That is what is the theme. And then obviously somehow translates into transit-oriented development. So these are a couple of themes that seem to be very, very important from exam point of view. Okay, so yeah, the first issue from the news that we have is government suspends the recently elected Wrestling Federation of India people. Right, that is being done by the Sports Ministry, and Indian Olympic Association will look at the affairs of the wrestling body. We have all seen what is happening on social media or here and there in the news. You have a brief of idea over here, and we don't know if it is merely because of some procedural anomalies which the WFI did, or was it because of political compulsions. As far as today's opinion section goes, it is more of political compulsions. I will not discuss it. It's not part of her exam. Next, uh, in Kashmir, uh, on Thursday, there was two vehicles that were going. They were ambushed by militants. The next day, some civilians were picked up for interrogation or questioning, and of them, three died. So, death of three civilians have taken place. So, case of custodial deaths. Now, logically, today it is not mentioned, tomorrow it will come, maybe. It's army which is doing this. So, the issue of Armed Forces Special Powers Act will come up, and we need to prepare that. We have a very, very holistic notes on this thing. So, we will cover it some other time. In fact, I have a video, I made it for somebody so that I can share it also. I'll put it on Telegram. Okay, so that needs to be done. Then the next news, we are hearing about, let me open the map of Red Sea first. So this is the Red Sea, just to have a situational awareness. So around this region, the ships are being targeted by a militant group known as Houthis. They are in Yemen at the moment. So they are targeting these ships by using drones or capturing it altogether. Israel is here, right? And the Suez Canal is over here. This is one of the most important sea lanes of communication. Okay, these are being hampered. In now, a ship is there with 25 Indians, so that has been affected. Okay, so this area of geography is coming in the news repeatedly. The implications are simple. The freight cost will increase. The issue of piracy is going up. More needs to be done with the security. Plus, the companies may look at, logistics companies may look at an alternative route, going, not using this route, but going via via Africa, Cape of Good Town, Cape of Good Hope, actually. Right. So obviously the things will increase because of that. So inflation, it will be inflationary. Oil prices, etc., will also get affected as a result of this. Next, approaching a point where a cut is must to check high real interest rate. Okay, so this is from economy point of view. It should have been in economy, but it is on the front page. So this is a viewpoint given by one of the members of the MPC, Monetary Planning Committee, Monetary Policy Committee. Okay. So some terms over here now. So one is real interest rate, and other term that is mentioned is the neutral real rate. So what does this mean? Neutral real rate. And we know, going by the prelims paper, economy, such things may now be asked also. Okay. So first, let us look at the neutral rate of interest. So neutral rate of interest is the rate at which the growth and inflation are in equilibrium. They are maintained. So that is the neutral rate of interest. Long run equilibrium interest rate. It is also known as the natural rate of interest. So it's economy at full employment while keeping inflation. Economy at full employment plus keeping inflation in check. Okay. So if that is there and it is believed to be at around 1%, neutral, it's believed to be at 1%, it is difficult to estimate accurately. So real interest rate should logically be, what was it? Employment, economy at full employment plus keeping inflation into check. So real is the gap between accounting for inflation interest rate. So that is the real interest rate. As simple as that. So we have a high real interest rate. That means the rate of interest is higher as compared to the inflation rate. And this needs to be brought down. This rate has to be brought down to support the economy. Now we can just scroll through. Good Governance Day, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Madan Mohan Malviya. Very important towering personalities. Right? They have to be prepared. Short note, especially on Madan Mohan Malviya. Okay, very, very important. We must mitigate, not litigate. So, this is a viewpoint that is coming from Professor Emeritus, former Director, National Judicial Academy, NJA. Okay. Mediate and not litigate. So, litigation means going to the courts. There is a formal procedure, you hire a lawyer, you have to go accordingly, it's expensive. Plus, obviously, we have a high pendency of cases as well. So there are a lot of issues with when it comes to accessing justice, particularly through litigation. And let me tell you, bulk of the litigation is coming, about 64 or 67% is coming from the government itself. So an alternative approach should be mediation. Now, when we talk about mediation, there is a term that we use interchangeably, that is arbitration. Mediation is, and let me tell you the difference also. Mediation is something like, let's say, family disputes. So you go for the mediation. Husband and wife have an issue. So there is a mediator. So husband, wife. So try to bring them to a compromise. That is mediation. If it was in the court, there would be lawyer of this person hearing a case, and the judge gives the judgment. Mediation is more of compromise so that they both agree upon something. Arbitration is like litigation only, where both parties uh, bring about a arbitrator, and the both he hears the views of both the parties, and then judgment is given. Only thing is here, principles of natural justice, a simpler approach is used as compared to the formal courts. So ideally it should be mediation, then arbitration, then litigation. The main argument is, of course, quicker dispensation of the case, less burden on the judiciary. So all those things. Plus, of course, it has a burden on the families also with regards to the cost, the time taken, everything. Okay, so that is the basic thing. Now, with regards to this, we have certain pointers from the news article. So one is a reference of Article 350 of the Constitution. It says, Constitution gives the right to every person to submit a representation of his grievance to any officer or authority. So rather than going to the court, you see, I told you, bulk of the litigation is coming from the government. Why? Let's say I have a dispute with the government. I'm not happy with one of the rulings that the government has given or imposed a fine. I put a case against the government. Right. So I have a grievance. I go to the court. So why not have a mediation with the government itself? And Article 350 provides for it. Although the government also has to be responsive to that. So that is a different story. Okay. So I have a dispute with a grievance with the officer. So there should be a mechanism for redressal so that I can go to an authority rather than me going to the courts itself. Okay. And then there is the Mediation Act 2023, a recent one. I think that is the context of this article today. Mediation Act 2023. Then there is Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee. So this was constituted by the Supreme Court of India itself to oversee the effective implementation and of mediation and conciliation. Which body? Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee to oversee mediation work in India. Okay, moving on. This is with regards to what is the center doing with in context of the tribals, more so the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, most recently when the elections were taking place, at that time the Prime Minister announced a scheme known as Pradhan Mantri Jan Jati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan, which becomes PM Jan Man. Pradhan Mantri is of course clear. Janjati means tribal. Janjati Adivasi. Nyay means justice, and grand scheme. So in this, it's nothing. It's basically the thing that those areas, tribal pockets where development has not taken place, the government schemes have not reached, bring them to those places. And sizable amount of allocation was made for that purpose. So schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, right? So somewhere there is a contradiction. You going into the tribal areas to say we make houses for you. So in some way they have to be left isolated, but at the same time building houses, making it accessible. Somewhere there is a conflict. Somewhere it has to be done. There is a kind of a dilemma over here that I see while I'm speaking it. Okay. So Pradhan Mantri, for example, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is being implemented. It's been implemented from before also. Okay. For that, there is this Awas Plus app, e-governance for good governance. Okay. 15 states are covered, and the names of tribes are mentioned from various areas. I should give you a screenshot rather, actually, that will be easier. Or you can take a screenshot. Okay. Right. Lot of this thing on the wrestling body. Next, we have this IDE Exchange. We were referring to Transit Oriented Development and National Urban Transport Policy 2014. So we have in the interview of MD of DMRC over here. And there is a mention of this word itself, transit oriented development in city. Any city with a million plus people requires a metro, right? For proper urban planning, a metro should come up with synergy with the other urban infrastructure, which is basically this. So this needs to be prepared. I don't advise you to strain your eyes reading this. Yes, one more word I can add to this: multimodal connectivity. Multimodal, a modal connectivity. That is rail, metro. Metro should be connected with, you're having a last mile connectivity, is metro connected with bus or some sort of a cab service, anything, so that you can reach home, so that you don't have to use your personal vehicles. It's easier, if you just read the National Urban Transport Policy. Nowadays, that AI thing is there. I was downloading that policy, so it opened that AI got me a summary also of the same thing. Okay, now we move on to the editorial opinion section. So, yeah, we're focusing more on this one, Kashmir issue, Vixit Bharat, uh, not much actually, and good governance, some of the initiatives of the government, which I've already shared, by the way, on the Telegram. Okay, so first one is the Kashmir thing. Last Thursday, 4 soldiers were killed, 3 injured during ambush. Then the next, a day later, 8 civilians were picked up for questioning in this Tupapir district. Fine, so violence, this problem is taking place. Now, this is a case of high-handedness of the security forces. So, AFSPA thing can be seen. No reference of AFSPA word has been used, by the way, but it will come up. Now, with regards to the Kashmir, some facts that we have from Ministry of Home Affairs, most of it from Amit Shah actually. So in Lok Sabha, he said that there was a 70% decline in incidents of terrorism. 70% decline. And of course, it has to be in deaths of civilians has fallen from 72%. From he's comparing with 2014 to 2023 time period. So 70% decline, 70% decline in death of civilians, right? And 59% decline in deaths of security forces between the UPA period to the Modi era, Modi time period. Okay. Now, just drop in violence is a good thing, but it is not an indication of sustainable peace. We have seen more incidents taking place. Right? So it's not an indication of sustained peace. In fact, in the recent times, we are seeing civilians being picked up and killed, especially from non-Kashmiri, and even if it is from other different communities, for example, Hindu, Sikhs, those are also being targeted. School teachers have been targeted, picked up and shot. So sustaining peace, if that is the overall goal, So it requires a constant investment in building local people's trust in administration and security forces. How can that take place? One of the recommendations have come from Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul. So he suggested that we should have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which will investigate human rights violations by state and non-state actors. Right, so that has to be done. Plus, of course, economy has to be built up. But more importantly, the political processes and the framework of Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat, and Kashmiriyat have to be worked on. Next, poised for Vixit Bharat. The term is coming from the PM's scheme, Vixit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, to uh, energize, to intensify actually the government schemes in areas where the scheme has not touched, government's flagship schemes. Here, the basic idea where the author is focusing is that we can become a developed nation by 2047 according to the definition of World Bank, he says, which I don't think, but he says it can be done in terms of per capita income if we have sustained economic growth. But he brings to an idea that it's not just per capita income, we have to address the inequalities also. Right? So that is the basic theme of the author. So let's go with the flow of this article. So he says, at the present, Indian economy is lower middle income category. This is according to the definition of World Bank. So World Bank has classified economies based on per capita income. Per capita income is GDP divided by population. GDP divided by population. Okay. So India is going to be the third largest. It's fifth largest, and I think by 2027 it will happen. But per capita income wise, we are far behind most of the countries. Of course, because we divide it by population. Okay. So at the moment, India's per capita income, according to the World Bank website, it is at 2,410. 2,410.9. Okay, so this is this thing. So according to this, we are a lower middle income economy. So between this in figure 1136 to 4465 is lower middle income. While to be defined as a higher income economy, it should be about $13,000 per capita income, 13,846. Okay, so that has to be done. Now he says that GDP has from Modi coming, so 2 trillion, we are now talking about 5 trillion, so doubling. 10 years or logically the economy doubles. Okay, so that has to be done. But he says that last he mentions is that we should not just focus on per capita income. It will double. We should actually focus on the Gini coefficient or the inequality. One of the indicators of inequality is the Gini coefficient. So during the Manmohan Singh time when they started, it was 34.4%. And in 2021, this was 34.2%. So the inequality in the economy still remains. Like, for example, if we simply divide by population, it's not a good indicator. It's about how inclusive the growth has been. Right. So that is the theme. Next, we come to the next page. Last mile delivery is the key. So this is again from the point of view of good governance. It's by the former Vice President of India, Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu. So some of the themes I highlighted. So he says his government has been focusing on Swachhta. One of the things of, by the way, governance means public service delivery. Main thing is public service delivery, policing or creation of infrastructure, but it is some public service. It should be delivered to the last mile, last person. That should be the overall goal. Okay, so Swachhta has focused upon and the involvement of the people by the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So Jan Bhagidari, public participation. Then the emphasis on Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, inclusive development. Then making government people friendly and transparent as possible. So some initiatives, let's say we can talk about RTI. RTI is there. Then e-governance, some tracking devices where a citizen charter, so that transparency is there as to where your file is stuck. Maybe you are in some government work or something, right? So that transparency. Then the emphasis on capacity of functionaries, the government people, capacity building so that they can efficiently, effectively deliver services. So that should be done. So these are the main things. And here again, last he says delivery is the key. Last mile is the most difficult to reach. So emphasize on that. PM Awas Yojana already 80% was already done. It is the last 20% which is difficult. Likewise, rural this piped connection. Last connectivity is the one that is problematic. That is the one that is actually taking time. So many examples are there. International news. Okay. 15 soldiers killed in Gaza in 2 days amid growing anger against Netanyahu. Okay. Zeev on, okay. China political, Xi Jinping is the president, right? Uh, his situation is getting weaker because of some issues with the economy. And now he's having a crackdown on the leaders on the grounds of corruption. Simple, easy. 8 jets crossed median lines around the Taiwan region. So they crossed the Taiwan Strait. Recently, we had an article of Raghuram Rajan that we should be ready if China invades into Taiwan. Now, as far as the exam is concerned, from prelims point of view, first of all, we should know basics about this region. East of China is particularly in news. Some of the things like Parcel Islands, Titu Islands, right? So these things are there in the news. So you should prepare this. To make it more difficult, it can be asked in some of the things can be asked in clockwise and anti-clockwise arrangement also. Okay, so you need to prepare this. Next, we come to the economy section. It's simple. So first we have an article concerning the India-UK FTA. There are some mismatch. There are certain issues with regards to this. Okay. This is very simple. We don't have to really read it till the time something comes up or your exam is actually very close. But it's very simple. India wants service sector, right? And it wants investment from UK. UK wants that those concessions can be given if you allow us to sell vehicles without those high taxes. We have very high taxes on import of vehicles, particularly luxury vehicles. Then it is the dairy products. They want us to open the economy for dairy and the farm economy. So those are the main things. So mismatch is taking place. Okay. Other thing is a larger issue. We also have an India EU FTA on similar lines. We are working on that. Negotiations are going. Now, can we say that India UK FTA is the stepping stone towards the India EU FTA? That's something that I think from exam point of view. So next, flows into NRI deposits double. Okay, flows into NRI deposits. NRI deposits in India. That's the important word. Why will it double? One reason is the people get more money in India. So NRIs, of course, would like to put their money back in India, so that bias would be there, but they will still do it if Indian economy is in doing decent. So one reason is India has higher interest rates. Second reason is so higher rates are there plus the relative stability of rupee. Today that figure is not given, right? Roughly it is at $83. I mean 83 rupees per $1. Cyber risk, cyber security, so that issue is obviously there. No takers for rupee payment for oil imports. Why? If we are writing an answer and what needs to be done with regards to the high prices of oil volatility, we will say having currency swap arrangement or making deals in rupee, but no country is willing to do it. The basic reason is India is not exporting much. So let's say India buys crude from Iran in rupee. Iran maybe because of the pressure it does that also. So now they have lot of rupees that come from India. India bought fuel But what Iran wants is not available with India. So where does India spend? Iran cannot spend it US or rupees in Russia, or it cannot do that. But Iran would be very happy if Chinese offers the currency. Chinese, they can buy it in the yuan currency. They'll be very happy with that. No issues, because China is exporting everything. They have all the things that a country needs. That is the problem. So if you want this demand for rupee, and you want rupee to be a hard currency eventually, India has to emphasize on the manufacturing sector.